Still rocking after all these years.
This is the story of my rock and roll butler.
This is it, the show that started it all. Often imitated, but never equal. From San Francisco, USA, online since 2004. It's the one and only Rock and Roll Geek Show. With the original Rock and Roll Geek, Michael Butler.
Tony Mann, thanks for coming on for the final episode of Lost Rockers, Part 4. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me. It's been really great. I really appreciate it.
So for people who are just tuning in who have never heard this Lost Rockers series, this is a book that Tony Mann is involved in. I'm here with Tony Mann from New York City. This book is called Lost Rockers, Broken Dreams and Crashed Careers by Stephen Blush with Paul Rachman and Tony Mann. And I'm on the phone with Tony Mann. Thanks for Thanks for coming on again. Thanks for coming on again, Tony. I'm gonna take a sip of this fine Tecate before we start.
I got one for you too. All right, here we go. Cheers.
I don't know, but the 15th one of the day always seems like the best one.
I hear you.
All right.
Okay.
So,
delicious.
We're in the final chapters of this book, Lost Rockers. This is part 4. The chapter we're going to start off with tonight is a woman named Cherry Vanilla. I know of Cherry Vanilla from Cream magazine. When I was in high school, I read Cream magazine religiously, and she was I believe she was one of the writers in Cream magazine.
That's correct. She was. That's where she took her name from, basically, as well. Cherry Vanilla with 2 scoops.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Cherry Vanilla. I've read the book. I've read the chapter. Hers is one of the long chapters, but it's a good one. But so give us a little primer on Cherry Vanilla. Is it primer or primer? I don't know, but tell us about Cherry Vanilla.
All right. Well, she was from New York, like myself. She was from Queens, and she was born Catherine Ann Doherty. In the 40s. She grew up in a blue-collar family.
So she was born in the 40s, and that means if she was born in, I don't know what year she was born in, but she was born in the 40s. That means she was,
1943.
So that would make her, about 80 now?
She's 73.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Yep.
Right. She was hot back then, too. There's a picture in here that's a pretty famous picture. I believe I might have seen this in Cream, but she's got her legs spread and she's got a shirt that says "Lick Me," and you can see the pubic hairs coming out of the leotard she's wearing. It's great. In that picture is Sting on bass.
That's correct. That is Sting was her bass player in England. And he also played for Wayne County. So he was with a lot of cool people back in the day. But yeah, that's a famous picture and became the title of her autobiography, "Lick Me," eventually.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check that book out.
Yeah, so she's from Queens. Her dad was a trash guy, sanitation man, and her mom worked as a phone operator at the Copacabana.
Sanitation so she grew man probably means he was in the mafia.
Well, I didn't say that.
All right.
But anyway, she grew up around the Copacabana. All right, and she was a very nervous kid. Her dad was very strict. She was kind of scared of the dad. He was, so she was nervous. She was a bedwetter. She was her dad used to make fun of her. Well, so her, show business was like a way out of her.
As is most kids who get into show business.
So, the parents were calling her a bad girl, so she kind of became a naughty girl, or whatever you want to say. And she was into a lot of different kind of music, like Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, and she loved the Murray the K rock and roll shows at the Brooklyn Fox. She was into rock and roll at the time that was called rhythm and blues and rock and roll, early rock and roll.
Yes, she was a child of the rock and roll. Rock and roll was her escape out of the boredom of childhood, as most girls in that time.
Right. And then she went to an all-girl Catholic school in high school, and she started to get into some theatrics there. She was was in some of the plays, and she took dance lessons and things like that. And as soon as she could, she started fooling around with guys and getting kind of wild with guys.
Yeah, sounds like a typical girl so far.
Yeah, exactly. She then later worked at Madison Avenue Agency, like an ad agency. Okay, so she got familiar with how that all, like, kind of the personal inner workings of ad agency and how big corporations ran. This came into play later when she helped run David Bowie's Main Man. She was one of the only people really getting things done for helping make David Bowie famous later on. But so anyway, she got out of school. She took jobs like at an ad agency. She worked at Bloomingdale's. And she started hanging out at these like discotheques in the city, like Peppermint Lounge and Ondine's and more rock places, right? And so she noticed, like, hanging around mafia type clubs and stuff, how that all ran. So eventually, she did start working for Cream magazine. So she had to pick a name, Cherry Vanilla with the Scoops for You. And a lot of people at rockers like Wayne County and Lenny Kaye and people like that were also rock journalists as well. So
now, was she a groupie too at the time?
Well, she liked guys.
Okay,
she wasn't shy about it.
She wasn't like she wasn't considered a groupie back then, or
no,
was she?
No.
She was, okay.
But what happened is she got picked for by Andy Warhol to be in his play.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Called Pork. Yeah. This is a really big deal because Andy Warhol was the shit in that era. This is 1971.
Of course.
And Andy Warhol chose Cherry to star in his play, Pork. So this play was put on in the Roundhouse in London, and it inspired a lot of people,
Because she was part of Andy Warhol's scene, she was pretty much a celebrity in London because they loved Andy Warhol around that time.
Absolutely. Right? And people like, Rod Stewart and David Bowie and all these people would come out night after night and see these people. Okay?
I'm looking at a picture here in the magazine. She's laying on a bed, totally nude, big bush,
yep.
and two dudes with their schlongs hanging out, sitting right on top of her.
Well, that's from Pork, yes.
Yes.
This is back in the day, man. This stuff was pre-AIDS.
And isn't that how David Bowie met her?
Yes. So David Bowie went to see Pork. And eventually what happened is Dana Gillespie, who was a friend of David's when he was young, right? And friends with him and Angie. She was a singer, Dana Gillespie. And she auditioned to be the understudy, and she didn't get it. But so what happened is Bowie got a hold of the script and wrote a song for her called Andy Warhol, okay? Uh-huh. But then he ended up doing the song himself, with Rick Wakeman and Mick Ronson.
Hunky Dory.
Every Bowie fan probably knows the song Andy Warhol. Yes. It was originally written for Dana Gillespie.
Oh, okay.
So, right, and he was at one of the shows and met Cherry, and she kept popping her boobs out and stuff like this. And then when they met, she popped her boobs out, so she got his attention.
There you go.
So this is when Bowie had like a hippie look, with the long hair.
Right, hunky dory.
He didn't exactly. He didn't have the Ziggy look and all that stuff. All right. Later, Angie found the right people to get the costumes and the hair together, and I know for a fact that Susie Ronson is the one that gave Bowie the Ziggy cut and color.
Susie Ronson was Mick Ronson's wife, or
not at the time, but at the time she was a costumer for Bowie.
Okay.
And worked for Bowie and worked on his clothes, and you can see her in the movie that when they play the last Ziggy Stardust show.
Right.
You can see her backstage dressing Bowie.
Right.
That's Susie Ronson who actually gave him, and she became Mrs. Ronson. And she's fantastic. She lives here in New York too, a friend of mine. So what happened is that Bowie came to New York, and basically Bowie hired all the Warhol people to run his company, Main Man, and help make him famous. Okay, so that basically David Bowie's Main Man company was Tony Zanetta was the president, Lee Black Childers was the vice president, Cherry was in there. So it was all Warhol people running Main Man to help make Bowie what he became known as today. Great advertising team and great team hustling around to DJs to get his music played and doing whatever they had to do to get his music played, put it that way. So, this is a wild pre-AIDS era, and, everything was on the table right then.
Yeah, everybody was having sex with each other, is what you're saying.
Pretty much, yeah.
There you go.
So, they took Bowie onto turn him onto Max's Kansas City and all these kind of New York scenes, and that's where Warhol hung out too. He had the factory across, next street over from there. So, Andy Warhol factors a lot into the New York rock scene, like New York Dolls, Bowie, and things like this, Velvet Underground, because, he was directly funding some of it, and other things just because he was around, people wanted to know about it. So everybody kind of wanted to be around Warhol, and since these people were Warhol superstars, basically, they were more famous than David Bowie at the time, So, David and his manager wanted to come to America, and they wanted the Warhol crowd, so that's why they made up Main Man.
Some people say that Cherry Vanilla might be responsible for David Bowie's success in the United States.
Well, that's very true, because she was one of the top people in Main Man, and Lee Childers, who's since passed away, would tell you that too. And so would Tony Zanetta.
Didn't she do some of his interviews for him, like in print?
Yes. Yeah, if he wouldn't show up, she'd make sure the interview got done. She booked his first American tour. She got him in Carnegie Hall. She did all kinds of stuff. She set up the first real New York show, which was Carnegie Hall.
I wonder if David Bowie remained friends with her throughout his life.
Well, they did have a little bit of an affair, or whatever you want to call it. Really? But probably wouldn't even call it that at the time.
He was married to Angela Bowie at the time still, but they kind of messed around. They kind of it was the free love, like you said. So
yeah, as far as I know, she fell out with Main Man after the place just got bigger, and Tony DeFries pulled the plug on Main Man, so she was kind of out of there. So as far as I know, they didn't keep in touch. Really after that. But she's very, very responsible for his career. She's a big part of
Main Man do Mott the Hoople? Didn't they manage Mott the Hoople? And who else did Main Man?
Yeah, and also Wayne County. And
did Main Man handle T-Rex too?
No. Okay. No. Main Man is named after a T-Rex song.
Okay. All right. There you go.
But it's kind of like Bowie and Mark Bolan were childhood friends, so there's a lot of parallels in their life. Let's put it that way.
All right. So after she left Main Man.
Okay. So she left Main Man. And, at one point, she wanted to become, a musician. She wanted to be a rocker too. So she started to do some cabaret and, some performance art type of things. And then she got a band together finally. It ultimately led to her having a band. She'd play all the rock clubs just like everybody else, and she's on the Max's Kansas City record, and she toured, and she moved to London with Wayne County and Lee Childers.
She got a record deal, probably before anybody else of all the girls, because B.B. Buell was performing too. She was trying to do the same thing, but I don't know if B.B. ever got a record deal. But Cherry Vanilla actually got signed.
She's had deals, yeah. Cherry got signed, yeah. That's true. She was kind of jealous or envious of Debbie Harry and Patti Smith and some of these other people, because she wanted to have a band I
wonder what Debbie Harry and Patti Smith and all the actual the quote credible musician females. I wonder what they thought of Cherry Vanilla.
Well, as a person in the scene and stuff, they know her for sure. As far as her as a musician, I don't know what they think of her, but I like her. She's got a lot of nerve, I like her. She has a cool spirit about her. She's a very cool person. She always had a good band. People say that Rip Her to Shreds is about Cherry.
Oh, that's
but
right.
Debbie said it wasn't. It was about a waitress at Max's. But supposedly it's about her. But
how many albums did Cherry Vanilla put out?
She put out a few albums, but the great thing about her is that she's she eventually wrote her book, and it was like pretty successful. I think it's like about 5 years ago she put out her book Lick Me, and it did very well. And we went to the signing here. I went to a couple of her events she had for the book, and people loved it. And she's very candid, and she was on RCA Records.
So she's still alive now.
Yes, she lives in Palm Desert, I think, Palm Springs, Palm Desert area now. I think the cool thing about Cherry is that she's really fun. She was a hardworking person. She knew what she wanted to do, and she made some of her dreams come true. It's really cool. Where some of these people just stayed groupies, she actually got out there and did her thing. So I applaud it.
Seemed like a fun girl and a good. Just by looking at all the pictures, she seemed like actually a good soul too, which I don't know.
Yeah.
But I like her
Totally.
music. When I was looking for music for this episode, I liked what I heard. So
yeah, she's got some good spirited music. Her personality shows through in the music, which is more than a lot of people can say these days. That's for sure.
Next chapter in the book, a guy named Robert Fleischman.
Yeah, excellent. Robert, he's known for he was an early member of Journey and wrote a couple of their best songs.
He actually wrote "Wheel in the Sky."
Yes, he did, and he also wrote "Anytime" and "Winds of March."
Which off of the Infinity album.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
That album sat in my cassette deck of my 78 Datsun B210 when it came out. I burnt that record out.
Well, it's pretty great album, and I think those are a couple of the best Journey songs, if you ask me.
Right, so he was
he was also he had a solo career.
Was he the singer in Journey?
He was the singer in Journey for a short time.
What happened with him in Journey? How come he wasn't the guy who? I mean, he wrote the songs on that album. Why wasn't he the singer?
Right, he was in it for a period of time. He never performed live with them, right? But he co-wrote those songs. He was working up a set with them, and he working up a catalog with them. But the manager, Herbie Herbert, replaced him with Steve Perry.
Why?
So, well, I get varying things. Some people say he was kind of difficult to work with, but I wasn't there. But the fact remains, he was replaced with Steve Perry, and Steve Perry is the guy that people equate with Journey's success, mainstream success, and before that they had that kind of Santana-ish sound. Because they had like most of
that's right.
Some of the guys from Santana in the band.
Infinity was actually the first breakout album for Journey. I wonder if he still gets checks from Journey from that album.
He wrote those songs, man. He seems to do okay. He's a very nice guy, and he's come to a couple of our events, and he actually performed Wheel in the Sky at one of our events. It was great. Yeah, he lives in the Chicago area, and he came to our Chicago in store and performed. He was great. Met people and sang right in the store. Amazing.
The story that I find interesting about Robert Fleischman in this book, he actually sang in the Vinnie Vincent Invasion. He sang the first Vinnie Vincent Invasion album, and they replaced him and put put Mark Slaughter lip syncing over his vocals in the video. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
He went from Journey to Slaughter.
He was in Vinnie. Yeah. Well, okay. That's very true. But what happened is right after Journey, he had a solo career, and he was on tour opening for Boston, Eddie Money, Van Halen, and all kinds of people.
Just Robert Fleischman. He was just calling himself Robert Fleischman.
Just as Robert Fleischman, right. And then it didn't make it, and the album flopped. And then he rejected an offer from Geffen to replace John Wetton in Asia, because he thought that it wouldn't work out. He was offered to be in Asia, the singer, and he didn't take it.
Asia, the quote super group. Who was in Asia? Greg Lake, was he in Asia too?
John Wetton.
John Wetton. Steve Howe, was he in Asia?
Carl Palmer.
Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, yeah, I knew it was a spin-off of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yeah, they had a couple of lineups, but anyway,
Heat of the Moment, that band.
Exactly, and that was a big band, and he turned it down. So he thought it wouldn't work, and he was probably right. And then
sounds like
a
he
little
made
while
a
after,
few bad decisions in his life.
Well,
bad choices in musical direction.
Well, he's had to work with some people that were super difficult to work with.
So what happened with him and
Vincent?
What happened with him and Vinnie Vincent that they replaced him and got Mark Slaughter to sing over his vocals?
Okay, so all right, so he was singing on some demos, right, with Vinnie, and then after Vinnie left Kiss, he called him to be the singer on the Vinnie Vincent Invasion album, the Chrysalis.
Oh, that's
album.
right. He had played with Vinnie Vincent before that at some point, didn't he?
Yeah, he sang on some demos, and then Vinnie joined Kiss. Vinnie had a project for a while called Warrior with the guys from New England.
Yeah.
Hirsch Gardner and John Fenton, those guys.
New England, who was produced by Paul Stanley.
Exactly. And then, so these guys had done a ton of demos with Vinnie and songs that later became Lick It Up and other Kiss songs, right? So they played on the demos for that. And Robert was on some of those. And both, like Hirsch Gardner and Vinnie, both had 2 stints trying to work with Vinnie that didn't work out. They both went back and worked with him twice, even though they were burned by him every time. So Robert was working with Vinnie, and in the studio, they asked him to sign this ridiculous contract, and he said, forget it. And they said, well, we're going to replace all your vocals on the album if you don't do this. And he said, go ahead. Of course they didn't replace the vocals at all. And he saw the video with Mark Slaughter lip syncing to Boys Are Gonna Rock.
They wanted to pay him
singer.
Zero money. Did he get any? I mean, they had to pay him royalties for that album. I don't know how well that album did. He probably did okay because that was the MTV era, and people were interested in seeing Vinnie Vincent after he left Kiss. So they had to pay him for that.
The album was very popular for a while, and actually, anyone who's involved with Vinnie Vincent. There's going to be lawyers involved, and
that's
so
right.
who knows who really made the money?
He sued
you
Chrysalis, didn't he? Or the record label. That was Chrysalis Records, I think. He sued them, didn't he?
Yeah, everybody sued everybody.
There you
It just
go.
became a nightmare. He sued Kiss. They sued him.
Nice.
He sued.
That's great.
And then after that first time with him,
And you wonder why musicians are broke.
yeah, well, the lawyers get the money. You can't live with him. You can't live without it. So what happened? He went back to him again in 1989 again, agreeing to work on the third Vinnie Vincent album, right, for the label Epitaph.
Oh, yeah,
right?
I remember that. Vinnie Vincent signed to Epitaph Records, the punk rock label, and then screwed over Epitaph.
That's correct. That's correct. So, they started to work on the album, and Vinny got so excited about how it sounded that he thought he could get a better album.
Why am I on this crappy punk rock label? I'm going to use them for the recording, and I'm going to get signed to a better record label. What a dick.
That's correct. And so, and where is he now?
So
Nobody even knows.
So that album never came out, did it? Or did it?
Nope. Well, some of them were on the Euphoria, and it's got different versions, some with Robert, some not, some with a drum machine, some with the drummer Andre. So anyway, the guy who was the drummer on some of that later stuff, Andre, got into a band with Robert called The Sky down in Virginia. So Robert had a band with Vinnie Vincent drummer Andre LaBelle, and they formed The Sky. They made a couple albums, and none of them really tore up the charts, but it was good music, very melodic, like Beatle influenced rock, heavy rock. It's like he got a shot, but it really was kind of screwed up by Vinny, unfortunately, to be honest. And now Journey's getting inducted into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Hopefully he'll be part of that ceremony in some way.
I'm going to bet that he won't.
Well, I guess it's maybe depending on if Steve Perry participates, or, he should certainly be there, but, he should be acknowledged. But, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has no hard and fast rules about anything. So I guess anything's popular. We'll have to wait and see. But like I said, he's a great guy. And now he still continues to make music, and he's been painting. He just had some of his art on display at Art Basel in Florida. He's going to have an art show in LA. He's a really cool visual graphic artist, and he's going to be making some new music again soon. His voice still sounds great, and I don't know, he wrote those songs. He could write another great song.
next lost rocker is one of the rock and roll casualties who one of the self-destruction stories, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
Young.
Kenny Young, yeah. Yeah, it's like Kenny Young, I think, from the get-go had a kind of a tough life. He was abandoned by his parents. He wasn't even adopted until he was like 5 years old or something like that. So then he grew up in suburban Long Island. He was a really good-looking guy. He was able to become a male model at some point. But, he liked a lot of cool rock music. He went to high school in Valley Stream, Long Island, and he was friends with Fred Armisen. And they had a band called KGB. And they used to play with like hardcore bands like GBH and Murphy's Law.
Was KGB a punk rock band?
Yeah, it was like a hardcore band.
Okay.
It was like more than just punk. It was very aggressive rock, And he playing with Murphy's Law and people like this. This isn't like a joke. So then he got friends with David Sargent from Reagan Youth, and got even into more even harder music. And so he kind of got it's like a real certain pecking order in punk and all this stuff, even though it's supposed to be thought of as like a slapdash form of music. It's very got a lot of ranks, and
people claim it's it's anarchy and it's individual and all that, but it's really, if you don't conform to the punk rock rules, you're shunned from you're out of the punk rock community.
Exactly. Where, like, for instance, why Dee Ramone made that Dee King, rap album in the day, because he was sick of wearing the punk uniform and having to do this and having to do that. Because in a way, like, the Ramones, wouldn't be thought of as punk because they had long hair at some point and, wore colorful shirts and stuff at one point, and, weren't what you would think of as what later became known as the punk uniform. But anyway,
I am more talking about the hardcore, the punk. That is very
little wiggle room on that one. Yeah.
So he took a total left turn and went prog rock.
Exactly. Yeah, he got into like elaborate costumes, and he had a kind of psych band called King of Kings, which was kind of closer to Gong or Magma or one of those kind of progressive bands than the other
total out there music like Yes. And supposedly he became a great bass player, as good as Chris Squire, according to this book.
He was an awesome bass player. He was
back
a
then,
great
Chris
musician.
Squire was considered one of the best bass players of all time. Back when I was a kid, Chris Squire, he's the best bass player in the world.
If you're talking about prog and stuff like that, he's definitely yes. So so he became like a really like top-notch bass player.
So he put together a band called King of Kings, and Frank Hannon of Tesla discovered him, right?
Yeah, I saw them playing at the Limelight in like 1990, like early 90s, and he got Tom Zutaut, who worked with Guns N' Roses and the Motley Crue, and flew in to see him, and they signed him right on the spot.
Right there,
called him a genius.
Signed him to Geffen right there.
Yeah, Tom Zutaut, who made like Shout at the Devil and stuff like that, and
so his
Guns
career's taken off. He's going to be a star.
Exactly, and this is like a power trio band, And,
not only did they get signed to Geffen, they were going to work with Roy Thomas Baker was going to produce their album.
Yeah, they moved to L.A. to work with Roy Thomas Baker, and this is like big
Talk
shit.
About a nice fuck you to the punk rock scene.
Man, you're not kidding. And so anyway, what happened is he started to get into the addictions,
Uh-oh.
and he just
good move, dude.
Yeah, well, too much too soon, man. He went right down the drain right there.
Maybe he was afraid of success.
Well, that's always a possibility. It's very sad when someone's really good and they get a shot and they blow it for whatever reason.
So now, did Roy Thomas Baker ever produce an album for them?
No.
So he just disintegrated. What happened?
So what happened with so what happened after, right after they're out there, this is when like Nirvana started to kick in, right? So this is like the opposite of the music that he wants to do.
So the record label said
it took a while. It took a while. They had to wait a couple years and funded an album produced by Chris Rankin. And,
okay, so what happened with the Roy Thomas Baker production? What happened? Why did that fall apart?
It fell apart because his antics kind of cost him that situation.
Were they,
sadly.
But so Geffen still stuck by him.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But at that time, though, so around that time, Geffen also signed Nirvana. Wasn't Nirvana on Geffen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not
and what happened is it's just like a lot of bands became kind of obsolete, like, that week.
Yeah, Nirvana killed rock and roll. That's the legend.
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of. It's like it just kind of wiped the floor with everybody, and it cleaned the slate, and it really doomed a lot of the bands, like
Yep.
Poison or whoever albums started like
that was
tanking.
The same time when I had just joined a metal band, a successful metal band called Exodus, and around the same time that Nirvana album came out, guess what? It also killed. It also killed metal.
Right. Totally.
It didn't kill it. It put it wounded it. It wounded rock and roll and metal for a while.
Yeah. Totally. No, I mean, I'm sorry. What I meant to say is that the album, the Roy Thomas Baker album, tanked because he wasn't able to get it together to tour and promote it or do anything.
Also, the album never got, but it got recorded or did not get recorded?
It got recorded, but it didn't become the success they thought it would because
is that album available?
Right after the album came out, King of Kings is when Nirvana hit.
Okay, so that's a self-titled album. You can still probably find it on the cutout bins or something.
Yes, and then it's like an epic album, but it's like came out at the wrong time.
Okay,
basically. And then they did another album called "Who's Your Guru," and this song is more like melodic and moody sounding. Yeah, the label didn't like it, and they shelved the record and dropped the band.
Well, there you go.
So he got more into drugs.
And when you get when a record label shelves your album, refuses to put it out, it's not a good thing for a band in the music business.
Yeah, well, you can't even go record something else. He's under contract, and he can't just go do anything. So he's kind of like
screwed.
You're kind of like expired. You're like an expired medicine or something. No good. And so what happened is then he got more into drugs.
If I could could I ingest a little commentary here? A record label shelves your record. You're not allowed to do anything else because they essentially own you, and they're not going to put your album out. That is why record labels deserve to die.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, around the time of when Poison and some of these bands were big, there was later similar type bands that came out called Tough, and a lot of other bands like them.
Yeah,
because whenever something's successful, the label wants to make 20 of those. If Bon Jovi's popular, they want 20 Bon Jovis.
Same thing with grunge too. Same thing. Every kind of music. So, but yeah,
I had some personal friends that had a band called Maximum. And they were from the Northeast Massachusetts, and they were signed and flown out to L.A.
Let me guess, it had two X's in it, in the name.
No, it didn't. But anyway, they good-looking glam band.
Yeah.
Fun music like Poison, and they were young guys. They were younger than Poison, and they got shipped out to L.A. and they were ended up getting shelved, and their album never even came out.
Was Smash Gladys from New York too? They were on that.
Smash Gladys was from New York. They were a really cool band. They used to be the Cat Club house band.
They got signed around that same time too. I like that band, Cat.
They were a very cool band. I liked them a lot too. Yeah, they were good. They were the Cat Club house band. I used to see them all the time, and Ace Frehley would get up and play with them, and all kinds of cool people would show up at the Cat Club. That was a great scene. Back to Kenny Young, what happened is he got into drugs. His career is tanking. He did a great album, but it came out at the wrong time. He did a second album, tried to change the career, and it got dropped. Then he got into drugs. He got busted, and the LAPD forced him to work as a snitch, which is like really not cool.
Nice.
And yeah, great. So then he got out of that, made it back to New York, and then he would do like solo shows. He got work as a Wilhelmina model, and then he had a little clothing line for a while. He did manage to get a publishing deal at one point, like in the 2000s, but what happened is his music kind of got a lot softer, and they didn't get the music they expected from him. So that kind of really didn't happen. So, it's really sad. He ended up just kind of like really hitting the self-destruct button, this dude, He ended up living in a drug den. It just was a nightmare.
So he died.
He ended up living.
He died.
Yeah,
How did he,
exactly. Like he ended up getting into crack and all kinds of nonsense and hanging around with all kinds of messed up people. And
did he get murdered, or did he just die of just drug
overdose? No. His body was just ravaged. He he did not get murdered. His just body couldn't take all the abuse.
All right, next artist in the Lost Rockers book is a woman named Marge Raymond. Had a band called Flame, and I know I was when I was reading the book, I'm thinking Flame. That name sounds familiar, and then when I was reading, it hit me. Oh yeah, Jimmy Crespo was in Flame.
That's right. Yes.
Jimmy Crespo took Joe Perry's place for a short period of time in one of my favorite Aerosmith albums of all time, Rockin' a Hard Place. So Marge Raymond was the singer for Flame with the great Jimmy Crespo.
Yeah, and he was also on the tour for Night in the Ruts as well.
That's right. That Joe Perry left during Night in the Ruts. Mm-hmm. That's right.
So Marge was born in Brooklyn, okay, and she was like one of these doo-wop singers, you know. And
by the way, she had a great voice too, Marge Raymond. She was like a
she still does have a great singer. Voice. She's
Flame was a good band. That Flame album's pretty good.
Yeah, she's a kick-ass rock singer. She's not lame. She really is good. She can still sing. We had an event with her this year, and I got to play with her. She was incredible, and I worked on some recordings with her, and she sang all these stacked harmonies on a recording. Like, she's really talented and very powerful singer.
I didn't even know anything about her until I read this chapter. It's a good chapter. It's one of my favorite chapters in the book, actually, about Marge Raymond. It's not a tragedy.
That's cool.
It's not a tragedy, but I've learned a lot about her. Marge Raymond. Let me see if I can interject here. Marge, she sang background on with ELO, Electric Light Orchestra. If you listen to Evil Woman, that's her background vocals, an Evil Woman.
That's correct. Know that. And she's the main voice you can hear because she was standing right in front of the mic. She sings on that Face the Music album. Yeah, a couple other songs too, Down Hometown.
Flame toured with Aerosmith, right? And that's how they got Jimmy Crespo because Flame was touring with Aerosmith. And then Joey Kramer formed a band with Marge Raymond. Joey Kramer left Aerosmith, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Formed a band with Marge Raymond. And was Jimmy Crespo in that band too? Yes.
Yeah, and Tom Hamilton.
And Bob Mayo, Bob Mayo from Peter Frampton's band.
Yeah, that's right. They were killer.
Bob Mayo keyboards on. You hear him say that on
Frampton Comes Alive.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
So
that was a super
group,
super man. They never put out an album, did they?
No, they were going to, but then that's when they broke up because, you know, Aerosmith really got back together.
I would have loved to have heard that album. That was probably good.
Yeah,
man.
Tyler heard about it and said, forget it.
Yeah.
So he put Aerosmith back together after that. Yeah, I've heard it. It's killer. I've heard some of those songs.
Man.
And she's going to put it out.
You don't have those, do you?
Yeah, I could send you some of that.
Please do.
Cool.
Send me those, man. I would love to put. I would love to put that in this episode if I could put one of those tunes in here.
All right, let me ask Margie. Maybe she'd do that.
Okay.
So what happened is she sang up, you know, with girl groups, Margie and the Formations, and you know, she actually had some hits. You know, she had a Billboard hit as a kid. You know, and then she grew up with another one of the Lost Rockers, Evie Sands. They were friends in Brooklyn, and yeah. So then she formed a trio. And she sang on a lot of sessions at the Brill Building for years, right, after she had that hit. So she'd go up and sing on someone's demos or the real song, you know, and they'd say it's someone else, you know. This happened a lot for people like Darlene Love, who's famous for this now. But Margie sang on plenty of hit songs too.
Did she co-wrote some of the songs on the Billion Dollar Babies album? Not the album, not the Alice Cooper Billion Dollar Babies, but the band. Alice Cooper's band formed a band called Billion Dollar Babies. Dennis Dunaway, Michael Bruce. She wrote some of those songs on that album.
She helped a lot with that. Yeah,
that's a great. By the way, that's a great album.
It is a very cool album. I agree. And so she formed a vocal trio called Sue Magna. Okay, so that was Sue Collins, Marge, and Nancy O'Neill. And and Sue Collins is the lady that sings on Ace Frehley's version of Back in the New York Groove and sings on a lot of hits. And they were friends with all the big Brill Building people. And what happened is that when Jeff Lynne was going to do Face the Music, they wanted that girl group sound. So that's why they got them.
Right.
And Jeff Lynne liked her voice the best and put her right in the front. And you can hear her loud and clear on Evil Woman, which is an iconic song. And on Down Hometown, he lets her go off a little bit too. Yeah, and she would they'd sing at the shows too.
That's how she got her record deal. Jimmy Iovine was engineering ELO.
Yes.
He got her to front her own band, right? Flame.
Yes, he got her to form Flame.
Was she dating Jimmy Crespo?
Deal. What's that?
Was Jimmy Crespo her boyfriend?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe it might have been something there.
Oh, okay. All right.
But, it's like they definitely work together very well. And I think that,
Flame is one of those bands that was one of the what I call a perennial opening act, open for everybody back in the 70s. And they were one of those bands that, they could have been big, but they never did. They never broke. Flame.
Yeah,
it's a good album.
Almost.
Flame. I wish I might have that album up there, my vinyl.
Yeah, there's two Flame albums. Yeah. Cool. They're both cool.
One's got a really cool album cover. It looks like it could have been done by Hypnosis. I doubt it, but it looks like it could have been.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, with the contortionist.
Yeah.
Breathing fire, and then it's she's got a powerful voice, and she still has a powerful voice. And we played a couple of those. Flame songs at the one of the Lost Rockers book events, and she belted it right out. It was great, fantastic. And she later got to sing with Luciano Pavarotti, and she's sung with Paul McCartney. She still has a group called Generation Gap where they play with horns, and she's sung cabaret. She did off Broadway. She does all kinds of cool stuff, and she still sings amazing. I like Marge a lot, and she has been for years running the Greenwood Cemetery tours in Brooklyn, which is a huge, historic, legendary cemetery. So if you go there, you get to see her, and she'll sing. Cemetery. She'll sing West Side Story. There's a lot of famous people buried in Greenwood Cemetery, and she'll sing along the tour. It's amazing.
That sounds like a fun tour.
both just lay here with our faces full of fear. Grumbling, this is too insane. Paul tossed the letter to the flame, and it read, he loved Odetta, and that Johnny forced his hand. You can't stop a girl that can love. Watch me go to the place where I was born. Now watch me run. You can't stop this girl. You won't stop this girl. You can't stop me, baby. I said, watch me, watch me, watch me
The last artist, Jake Holmes. Know nothing about
Oh,
Jake
right.
Holmes, but one. Go ahead, I'll let you tell. But the fun fact about Jake Holmes is he wrote a song called "Dazed and Confused," and Jimmy Page stole the song from him and did not give him songwriting credits. Fucking asshole.
That's true. That's true. There's a couple fun facts about him. He was a folk guy. Okay, he was a folk musician. This is the time of the hippie era. Okay, we're talking about the 60s when hippies were popular, and he was like wearing a suit, you know. And anyway, so he married this woman Kay, and they had a parody act called Allen and Greer, which used to play in the Village, and
Like a comedy act.
yeah, kind of like a parody, right? Kind of a goof, you know, almost like
Like a Weird Al type thing.
Weird Al type thing, something like that, right? And so, what happened? They had a hit song called "It's Better to Be." They had a hit album called "It's Better to Be Rich Than Ethnic," and they played around the Village. This is around the time when folk rock is starting to get really popular in the Village. You know, it's like Mamas and the Papas and Bob Dylan and all this kind of stuff is starting to really catch on. Pete Seeger.
The protest singer.
Yeah, Pete Seeger called them the most tasteless group he'd ever seen.
Oh, very nice.
So it started to
compliment.
get like a buzz on them because he got put down. So it kind of helped them, right? And so they were playing at the bitter end, okay? And they were managed by Fred Weintraub, who later went on to produce like Bruce Lee movies and stuff like this. And he got drafted into the Army, and his wife left him for one of the managers. They got Bill Cosby's manager. 'Cause Bill Cosby used to perform at the bitter end as well.
Bitter End's still around?
It's still open, yeah, it's still there.
That.
And so anyway, he got in the Army. He came back. He lost his wife, so he started to play with some rock bands. He went up to Canada for a while. So he went back to the bitter end. He started writing some serious song, some serious music. He was also in a trio with Joan Rivers.
Oh, yeah.
That was
I
another
remember
parody kind of thing. All right. And it's kind of unusual because she couldn't really sing, but she'd be like reading out of a newspaper and things like that. And they also actually got in a film called Once Upon a Coffee House, but they didn't get along. So that didn't last too long. After that didn't work out, he just went on with his own solo career finally. And his debut solo album is called The Above Ground Sound of Jake Holmes. It's on the Tower Records label. There's a picture of him on the cover wearing a suit, and he looks all like, this is the era of the hippies, and he looked kind of square, to be honest, But the thing is, he had a song on there called Dazed and Confused. The song isn't about drugs. It's about he lost his girlfriend, and he's all bummed out and getting deeper into his mind, right? So he played a bunch of gigs, and this song would always bring the house down. He played at the Village Theater, which was later called the Fillmore East.
And the Yardbirds were on the bill.
With the Yardbirds. And Jimmy Page was in the Yardbirds. And Jimmy Page saw, people getting into this song. And Jimmy Page went to Bleecker Bob's record store and got that album. And then the Yardbirds started playing Dazed and Confused. And they played it on TV with the exact lyrics, Jake's lyrics and everything.
Claimed it as their own?
Yeah, and then they changed it listed it as I'm Confused with no credits. And then when he got in, formed Led Zeppelin, he renamed the song Dazed and Confused.
And changed the lyrics around.
Yes.
And screwed over and totally plagiarized. Led Zeppelin, very famous for plagiarizing bands.
Yes.
Not
That's
only
true.
did they
Yeah.
plagiarize black blues guys, but they also plagiarized the square white guy, too.
Yep. Well, that, people love that song. So he's like, what the heck? No one will know. I'll take this song. This guy's a folk guy, and I'll make it into a heavy rock version, and no one will know.
Now, did he sue? Did he sue Jimmy Page?
Well, what happened is he wrote him a letter, and then he never really heard back from him. He just said, why don't you just give me some of the credit? And then after we started interviewing him for this Lost Rockers is also going to be a documentary, so it should be out next year. But when we interviewed Jake, we said, why don't you sue Jimmy Page then? And then he did.
He did sue Jimmy Page.
He did sue Jimmy Page, and he settled out of court for an undisclosed amount.
Being choosed, but I'd just like to know. Give me a clue as to where I am at. Feel like a mouse and you act like a cat. I'm dazed and confused, hanging on by a thread. I'm being abused, I'd be better off dead. I can't stand this tease and I'm starting to crack. You're out to get me, you're on the right track.
What that undisclosed amount was. I mean, is that what album was that? What Zeppelin album was that? On the first Zeppelin album?
Yes, it was, and they played it throughout their whole career.
Let's see, how many
records
did that first album sell? It probably sold about 10 million. It's probably still selling.
And its on Song Remains the Same, and was all kinds of stuff. And then there was a movie called Dazed and Confused, and on and on and on.
He must have gotten, I'm going to guess, $4 million.
Well,
I'm probably guessing high.
Well, you know what? The thing that was cool is that out of all these people, Jake had another career after this.
Oh yeah, he said he didn't really need the money. He wished that the old blues guys they're the ones that deserve the money more than him.
Well, what I said to Jake is that, look, Jimmy Page himself was a session guy before he had Led Zeppelin. And I said, who are the session guys that played on, above ground sound? Like, those guys could probably use a few bucks. Maybe some charity could use a few bucks, and you could get your name on the song. And he said that's what happened. And, Jake, after this folk career, Jake had a very successful jingle writing career, and he wrote the Dr. Pepper theme.
Oh, what's the Dr.
Pepper, you're be a pepper, drink Dr.
Wouldn't
Pepper.
You like
he
to
wrote
be
that.
a pepper too? Nice, good for him.
Yeah, so he became a very successful, the top jingle writer in the 70s.
What
he
other
wrote
jingles
Be All That You Can Be in the Army. He wrote Aren't You Hungry for Burger King Now?
I don't know that.
He wrote, he wrote top jingles for all kinds of corporations. Gillette, The Best a Man Can Get. He wrote Come and See the Softer Side of Sears. He wrote a lot of hit jingles. And
I think that's a cool gig, to be a jingle writer. I'd love to do that.
Well, he's great at it, and he's very.
Is he still doing that, writing jingles?
Well, he still performs, but
he doesn't.
It's like in the last year or so, Jake suffered a stroke, and he's been taking it easy, but he's been doing okay, and he came to one of our events and performed, and is scheduled to perform at another event for us. Coming up in the spring. So, he's taking it easy, but he's still involved in music and theater, and he's been running. He's been involved in the scene upstate. He lives upstate in New York. He doesn't live in the city, but in his day, he used to work out of all the music publishing places down here, just like everybody else, hustling jingles. And jingles kind of fell out of favor after a while, but I noticed they still use some of his jingles, to this day. So, good for him. And he also went on to work with Harry Belafonte and produced work on two cool albums for Harry Belafonte, and work with Frank Sinatra. So he did a lot of cool stuff in his day, for sure.
I'm gonna have
just icing on the cake that he finally was able to get his name on Dazed and Confused in some manner, and to get paid was just a bonus. So it's very cool for him. He's a great guy.
There you go. That's the book, Lost Rockers. We covered every chapter. If that, friends, does not convince you to buy this book, Lost Rockers, nothing will. I mean, it's a great book. It's a great book. Like I said, it's well put together. It's a good looking book.
Yeah, they did a beautiful job on it.
And the stories are good, and all these people are talented in their own way. And I hope this helps you. A lot of people have commented on this Lost Rockers stuff. So Tony, man, I appreciate you doing this with me. We made it through. I
really appreciate it, and as do Steve Blush and Paul Rachman as well. And keep your fingers crossed, and keep your eyes peeled for the Lost Rockers documentary next year, and you can see some of these people in the movie.
Yeah, I want to go to the premiere. If you have a premiere, I want to go to it.
That'd be great.
All right.
And like I said, we're going to be out there on the West Coast promoting a different book early next year. So I hope to meet you and see you out there too. That'd be great.
I'm definitely going to come out. What you're promoting? New York Rock? Is that the book?
Yes, New York Rock by Stephen Blush, and we're going to be the first week of April at Amoeba Records.
I will come there. I will come there, and maybe we'll have a beer if you have time.
That'd be awesome. Of course, we've got to make time for that.
Exactly. All right, Tony, and we'll tell Ace and the Reality Check guys stay at home. All right.
I don't know about that. They're helping organize.
Yeah, they'll be there. They'll be there, I'm sure, kissing ass and brown.
I love them guys. I'll give it to them, man. They've always helped me. They're great. I really appreciate all this in-depth talk about all these people and a chance to explain a little about them, and I hope it get some people to check out the books. It's a great book, and if you like rock and roll stories, pick up Lost Rockers, check it out, and pick up New York Rock as well.
Once again, it's called Lost Rockers, Broken Dreams and Crashed Careers by Stephen Blush, Paul Rachman, and the great Tony Mann. Tony, thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, too. Thanks a lot, and happy holidays to you.
I'll see you in a couple months.
I drink Dr. Pepper and I'm proud. I used to be alone in a crowd, but now you look around these days, there seems to be a Dr. Pepper craze. I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, we're a pepper, wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, if you drink Dr. Pepper, you're a pepper too. Us peppers are an interesting breed, an original taste is what we need. Ask any pepper and he'll say, only Dr. Pepper tastes that way. I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, we're a pepper, wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, we're a pepper, wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? Be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper. Come on! Be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper. Right. Be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper.
It's a rock and roll geek train wreck.